Today's NBA has a reputation of being politically progressive. More than 70% of the players are black. The league has embraced player activism in recent years, but that wasn't always the case. The 1970s was a pivotal era in how the league was molded into what we see today. In the new book entitled Blackball, author Theresa Runstedtler writes about the league's black pioneers in post-civil rights America. Theresa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk about the book.
It's an exciting book to talk about. You write about some of the greatest to ever play the game, but there are also those who the general NBA fan may not know about, like Connie Hawkins or Simon Gordine. How were their contributions to the game so essential to making the league what it is today?
So Connie Hawkins has a somewhat tragic story. He was blackballed essentially from the NBA for years because of his alleged connections to a gambling ring. And he got swept up in the criminal justice system. He never actually got charged for it. There was no evidence that he was actually really involved in it. And yet the NBA chose to blacklist him. And so he really, his case just exposed the power of the NBA and the ways in which it could dictate the careers of players, and they had absolutely no recourse. Somebody like Simon Gordine, a very important yet lesser-known figure who was the highest-ranking black executive in the NBA and in professional sports in North America in the 1970s. He was proving to folks that black executives could make it in the NBA in the front office as well.
In the 1970s, the NBA was predominantly white. You're right, the teams and fans were really hesitant to embrace African-American players, blaming them for bringing in an influx of drugs and violence into the game. But you say that that's inaccurate.
So part of the book is unpacking that as a kind of racialized narrative that really dovetailed with the law and order politics of the day. And so, you know, it wasn't necessarily a drug-ridden league, any more drug-ridden than any other professional sports league. It wasn't necessarily more violent than it had been in the past, despite all of the uproar surrounding Kermit Washington's punch of Rudy Tomjanovich in 1977. And yet those incidents and the taint of a possible cocaine epidemic became a way for fans and also team owners, the sports media, to talk about problems that were happening in America's inner cities during the quote-unquote urban crisis.
In the title of your book, you credit Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as being part of the generation that saved the soul of the NBA. They brought the flair and the style of street basketball to the mainstream. How did this change the trajectory of the league?
So it's interesting because at the time, you would think that the NBA, which was trying to distinguish itself alongside the NFL and MLB and try and gain more fans, would embrace the quote-unquote playground style of play that black players brought to the league. You know, all of the dunking, the crossover dribbles, the behind-the-back passes, and all of the kinds of things that black players honed on the playground courts in black neighborhoods. But unfortunately, there was still this perception that basketball should be a white college men's game. This became a kind of way of disparaging the players and talking about young black men's freedom, really emerging freedom and success in the 1970s. And yet, ironically, this is the exact kind of play that by the 1980s, with the rise of Michael Jordan, and then subsequently with the likes of Allen Iverson in the late 90s, and then now again in our current time with LeBron James and others who have this spectacular style of play, this has become the thing that has made the NBA a global brand.
And really, Theresa, to that point, when you have stars like LeBron James using his platform to speak up against racial injustice, how has his example, him alone really, how has his example set the stage for the next generation?
So I think the players now have an amazing amount of power because they have an unmediated access to their fans through social media. They have wealth that players from the 1970s could not even have imagined. and they have the power of the NBA as a collective force to really back them up. And I think that that tradition is only going to continue as long as the players keep up this long-standing history of activism in the sport.
Theresa Runstedtler, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. Her new book, Blackball, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Spencer Haywood, and the Generation That Saved the NBA, is now available wherever books are sold.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.